What's up, guys? Welcome back to the weekend edition of Rawstocks. This is Rustic, and today we're going to be taking a look at Tesla's chart. We're going to look at where price came from, where price ended on Friday, and where price is likely to head tomorrow into the rest of the month, the end of the month, and into the rest of the week. So let's go ahead and dive right into the charts. Before we get started, Rawstocks just finally launched its official website, rawstocksllc.com. Links in the description below. Everything you need to know about joining the Discords on the website. Go ahead and check it out and show some support. So digging into the chart here, we got the monthly chart of Tesla pulled up. We're going to keep looking at the monthly chart on the weekend updates. And you can see right now we're currently sitting at an inside month. Right? We did push up, we did push down, we did not push down to a lower low. So what I want to note on the monthly chart here is that we have a higher low, lower low, higher low scenario. We're not going to push down to get a lower low. So right now that's a decent look for the bull case scenario that we did come down, set that low, bounce back up, right? And we've come back down. We've tried to run a test down on the wick and haven't got anywhere close to the low. Other things you want to note on this time frame is that previously back in 2023 January, we ran a test of the 100 period moving average. This is a EMA. And then you can see we popped up. Now we've come back down to run a test on the 100 period EMA again. Now that EMA is higher than it previously was, so we didn't get as low. Now we're finding a little bit of support and a bounce. Now we are below on the monthly chart, we are below the 50 and or the 20 and the 50 period, right? But that doesn't mean we can't pop back up. We got the 20 coming down a little bit. We got the 50 kind of barely pointed down, but leveling out, right? And I think that once we get above that 50, we're going to find ourselves kind of pushing around that 20 and 50, and then we might push up higher from there. Now, we certainly could run up here, reject that level, come back down, test the 100 period again. I don't think it's as likely, but it certainly could happen. So we're not going to leave it off the table, but that's kind of the things we want to note here on this time frame, right? We also want to note the high of this month being in at 187.56, and we want to note the low at 167.75. So those are going to be our high and low range that we're looking for breakouts going or breakdowns going into the next month. Okay, so have those levels on your chart. Now we'll drop down to the weekly chart, right? The weekly chart we had a look at. Last week we pushed up, right? We ran a test of that 20. That 20 period is starting to flatten out, and that's a good sign, right? We have a flat 200 period. We have the 50 and the 100 above the 200 period, right? All good looks. So if we can get price above the 20 period on the weekly chart, which could be as early as next week, it could be the week after, we can get above it, right? And then we're going to have overhead resistance with the other moving averages. If we could get back above the 200 period, right, then we can get them all curled up, heading back up, and that could really drive us to a much higher price. We'll see if that happens. You can see on the weekly chart, we got the gap fill between the week of the 22nd and the week of the 29th. So we do have that gap fill there on the weekly chart, right? And then again, we ended kind of with a bit of a doji spinning top-ish kind of candle, right? Relative price relative to around the middle, not perfectly, but around the middle of that was a green week all in all. And you can see we've continued to run tests, right? As we pushed up here, we had all the moving averages above the 200 period. We rejected it, right? We've come back up and tested the 200 period and rejected it. But now we're running 2 tests on the 20 period on the weekly chart. And if we can push up above it, there's a high likelihood we can close up around the 185 to 190 range and get us back above that 20 period on the weekly chart. Okay, we have some other levels that you want to have on your chart as far as weekly chart goes. We're going to have again that Monday, May 6th low of 167.55. We're going to have the previous week's low, or the following week's low as well, coming in at 169. So have both those sell side levels on your chart. Okay, and then we will also put, which is not on here yet, but we'll put this week's level on, officially coming in at 173.26. Okay, and then as far as buy side levels go, we got 187.75, right? And then we have this week, this previous week's level just coming in right below it, right? So we're going to look for both of those areas to be buy side liquidity. Also have here on a daily time frame chart, I believe there's a fair value gap here that if we drop down, we draw on liquidity. Then we also have the consequent encroachment of this candle body, which is 50% of this candle body, okay? Mean threshold, consequent encroachment. Either way, it's 50% of this weekly breakup candle, right? And that was that really incredible bounce that we got off the bottom. We have the 50% level there as well marked off, which is also inside that daily fair value gap. So again, if we were to draw down there, it'd likely to come to the consequent encroachment and inside that fair value gap before we found support. I don't think we're dropping down there, but we're not going to leave it off the table. Okay, weekly chart, we're back above the moving average control line on the RSI. We're kind of pointing it up. We're back up around the 50, right? So looks all right. If we can make that push, we can start to run back up to the 70 on the RSI. And again, that would get us above the 20 period. That would start to push on that 200 period, maybe even on the 50 and the 100 as we start to see those continue to drop. Now, I do think we're probably going to see ourselves chopping around between 170 200 for a little bit. I do think once we get up above the 20 period on the weekly chart, then and holding above 185, right, that would be a little bit better, that we could then get that 20 period moving up, and then we might chop between there and 200, maybe even as high as 212, but somewhere in between these moving averages as we get the 50 and the 100 moving down and getting the 20 period to cross over, and that's going to take us all the way into the summer for those moving averages to completely play out if we're looking at just the weekly chart. So now we'll drop down to the daily chart. Daily chart starts to look a little bit better. We had a fake out last week, right? Fake out was that we busted up to the 100 period. Okay, then we drop back down through all the rest of the moving averages. That was the fake out, right? Or at least the 50 and the 100. It looked like it was going to drop, came back down, just swiped a little bit of liquidity, it looks like. Again, probably faked out because of the moving averages on the daily chart. Then we rip back up. Okay, this could just be running a test on this breakdown candle, but we're still continuing to set higher highs, right? In this succession, higher high, equal high, right? We also are setting higher high. Now we ended here, but we'll be looking for that push up above the 100 period on the daily, okay, up to get a new higher high. And that's going to be a break above 187.72 and then a push up to 200, right? And we have that 200 period on the daily chart rolling down. We have RSI neutralized, right? It's barely above the moving average line on the RSI, but we're slightly pointed up, right? That could make a push up to that 200 level, right? Take the buy side liquidity, run a test on the 200 period moving average. Now we haven't run a test on that 200 period moving average on the daily time frame. We haven't run a test on it, period. Once we broke down from it back in January of this year, okay, it was just straight down. Now it looks like we're pushing up to run a test on that 200 period, right? Previously back here, right, we pushed up, we ran a test, we came back down, we ran another test, we came back down, we pushed up through it, right? Here, came down, we popped over, we came down, found support on it, popped back up, and then fell through it. So first time, we'll probably see rejection, again, right around that 200 period. We saw that push here. We rejected just shy of 200. That's a big round number, right? So likely to find rejection there. Probably shorts are already ready to go on that one. Next time we push up, should be to test that 200 period, right? If we break up through it, great. We might come back down, test it as support, make a run on this order block, right? Eventually, I don't think it's going to happen super fast, but I think our eventual target here is 255 back up in this order block. There's definitely a lot of fair value gaps here on the daily chart that we'll be looking to attack, right? As we've kind of taken out the ones within this range, we have more or less closed this gap here. So now we're looking at the fair value gaps up here. We could also say there's a breaker block, mean threshold up here on the daily chart, up at 236. There's some other targets. We'll talk about them if we start getting above 200, okay? Now let's drop to the 4-hour chart. 4-hour chart has this big fair value gap. We got an order block below. We got an order block above. We made an attempt to get up there. We failed to deliver on that order block. We've come down. Now on the 4-hour chart, you can see we're just trading sideways last week, right? After Monday, the 29th, we ripped up. Now we faded back down, and you can see in between this level, 187 and the 167, so a $20 spread, we're just kind of fading in and out, right? Just trading sideways, more or less between that range. A little bit tighter range for some of that sideways price action. We saw it pop back up, back down, right? There were some gamma levels in here that gave us a clue that 185 was possibly going to be, pushed on last week, which it did. And then negative gamma started coming in, and we pushed down to the low 170s. And then we ended up popping up into the end of the week. Okay, now again, we'll be looking for that push into next week. We'll be following the gamma levels, short week, so easier for big money to run the market with one less trading day. We're above the 20 period, we're above the 50 period, we're above the 100, we're above the 200, all lined up the way we want to see it, right, in order. 50's pushing up, 20's pushing up, right? Oh, this is 200 period. Sorry, they're not in order. We need this 100 period to pop back up above the 200 period. 200 period's flat, which is good. You can see we've been hovering around that 200 period, back and forth, just building momentum, right? So next thing we're going to be looking for, even if we pop back down to like 175, we're going to be looking for that to pop up. Now, I think we're going to start pushing up early next week, but we'll see what happens. And if that's the case, we might get that 200 to start to, or that 100 period to start to curl up, cross over the 200, right? Get the 20 and the 50 to push us up higher, and maybe see that push up to 200 next week or the following week, right? It'd be nice to see the month close strong. We'll look at the 1 hour time frame. 1 hour time frame, we got 200, 100, right? And then we got the 20 about to cross the 50, right? So if that 20 crosses the 50, we got them all lined up. We got a big fair value gap here, right? Nice to see. This was Friday's price action, right? We pushed up, set the fair value gap, pushed up higher. Haven't come back down, tested it. Wouldn't mind us maybe pre-market Tuesday morning, come back down, test that, test these moving averages, right? Pop off that order block, boom, and just make a nice push to like 180, 185, kind of right out of the gate. That would be pretty nice. And then maybe we could see us push higher. But again, we'll be following the gamma levels closely to see if that supports the market makers, pushing price up because of options hedging, right? Last thing we'll do is look at the 15 minute. 15 minute. Saw silver bullet, right? We had the AM push up, the silver bullet push up, right? The lunch pushed back up, New York PM pushed up and set a new high for that trading session on Friday, right? Nice move there. And then we just kind of consolidated into close. You can see we're just right below the 20 period. We got the 50 pushing, we got the 100 pushing to potentially cross the 200, and the 200 is even facing up. So again, on the 15-minute chart, it looks pretty good as well, right? Even if we come back down, maybe test this 200, right? That same area, kind of 176, 177, right? That wouldn't be abnormal to see that kind of roll back over into pre-market and then see a shoot up out of there. But again, we'll be watching the gamma, we'll be watching the flow, we'll be watching for a nice bullish fair value gap, and we'll be watching to see how the structure looks during the pre-market trading session. So that's all we're going to look at today. Hopefully this has been helpful for you guys. Appreciate all the support. Don't forget to like, subscribe. If you like this video, share it with your friends. Right, really helps get our name out there. Channel's growing fast. And we'll see you guys in the trading rooms tomorrow. Again, don't forget to check out rawstocksllc.com. New website launched, information on how to join the Discord, as well as a promo code on that website. So check it out. Thank you guys again for the support, and we'll see you on the next one.